Hello there, good morning. And yes, Roland is right. I was a bit ill a couple of weeks ago and I had to take some days off. Now, I probably wouldn't have had to be away for more than a day, but as a diabetic, any kind of illness tends to have an effect on my blood sugar levels. So my doctors had to monitor me until my readings were back to normal. Now, unfortunately, this turned out to be a lot more difficult to accomplish than anyone had anticipated. They kept giving me more and more insulin, but for some reason that nobody understood, my blood sugar levels simply refused to drop. It didn't matter what time of day we checked, it was still high. First thing in the morning, 2 hours after dinner, it didn't matter. The readings kept coming back high. It just made no sense. I was doing everything right. I was eating at the correct times. I was correctly calculating the doses, but all our correct actions were still giving us the wrong results. Now, as the days went by, I started to get extremely frustrated. Why was the treatment not working? None of the doctors could explain to me why the medicine wasn't working, why my body appeared to be defying tried and tested science. It was the most frustrating experience I had ever been through. But I also realized that this frustration is actually a familiar feeling. You know, when things don't work the way they're supposed to and you don't know why, it can sometimes make you want to grab tufts of your hair and systematically rip them out while banging your head in a steady rhythm against a rough concrete wall. When you have credit and a full signal, but you can't get on the internet. When a brand new pen you just wrote with suddenly won't produce any marks on the paper. When your Visa card gets declined even though you know there's money on your account. When your computer can't recognize the perfectly fine pen drive that you just used to copy files from another laptop minutes ago. We have all experienced this all too familiar frustration at one time or the other. It's human nature. When things don't function the way they were made to, they don't just become useless, they become infuriatingly nugatory. Yeah, young people, I want you to look up the word nugatory. That's your word of the day. So imagine how people feel around you if you are, say, a customer service officer who refuses to give customers service, or a receptionist who is too busy chatting on your phone to receive visitors, or a police officer who permits crime for a fee, or a nurse who makes patients feel worse, or a Christian who is nothing like Christ. How will citizens feel in a country where the health insurance doesn't cover your health care, the police doesn't protect you, the judiciary doesn't give you justice, the parliamentarians don't represent their constituents, the sanitation ministry can't keep the nation sanitary, the church mosque, the shrine, they don't produce good people, and our leaders cannot lead us out of these predicaments? How would it feel to be a citizen in a country like that? All things and all people have a purpose, and when we fail to fulfill our purpose, we become valueless to those who should consider us valuable. It's bad enough if our presence on earth adds no value to the planet, but not only do we fail to be of use, our uselessness also causes frustration and anger. My dear friend, we all like to think that we are special. We believe in ourselves. We have faith in a great destiny that is laid out before us. But one does not trip and fall into greatness. You don't fall asleep in obscurity and wake up in prominence. The journey to prominence, to relevance, to success, well, that journey is made in small daily steps by functioning as you have been assigned to function on a daily basis. By doing your job, by fulfilling your purpose, you build the bricks that will someday become the monument of your destiny. Plus, you'll be surprised how things stop malfunctioning around you when you stop malfunctioning yourself. My name is Kojo Yankson, and I can't receive what God made for me if I don't first achieve what God made me for. Good morning, Ghana.
We have to bring you the news. In our first story, the government of Ghana has announced the signing of its first ever green loan to the value of some 35 million euros to help deliver water projects to rural and peri-urban communities across Ghana using proven UK-designed technology and systems. The project, which is to be delivered by UK-based Aqua Africa Limited, will deliver clean drinking water to about some 225,000 people by the end of 2021. There's more in this report.
Access to drinking water continues to remain a daily struggle for rural communities in Ghana. Many residents are compelled to drink from untreated and unsafe water sources. Sanitation and Water Resources Minister Cecilia Dapa says the government of Ghana is poised to provide water for all, and that Ghana's green agenda in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals is on course with the Aqua Africa Water Project. She says increasing water coverage requires a consistent investment on a year-to-year basis since population growth and demand for water keeps increasing, a reason the ministry wholeheartedly received the investment in the Aqua Africa project. Operations Manager of Aqua Africa, Leonora Dowley, says presently the Community Water and Sanitation Agency has a list of 1,500 communities in need of support.
Aqua Africa will be working closely with the Community Water and Sanitation Agency under the guidance of the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources to identify, through the district assemblies, a priority listing for the communities that will best optimise the criteria set for suitability for a sustainable, managed and long-term solution. At the moment, the Community Water and Sanitation Agency have a list of 1,500 communities in need of support, and the Aqua Africa project will cover 450 locations and alleviate 225,000 Ghanaians from daily water poverty. The project will start at the mobilisation stage at the end of September, where we will finalise the location of each site. This will be completed before December, and from then we will schedule the logistics and distribution for installation starting from mid-January. That will be the formal commencement date of the project, and we expect the project to be fully completed within 18 months. We think that what is required are long-term, sustainable solutions for clean water distribution. We think the community engagement is critical to both the installation of the project and for the longer-term operations and maintenance of the infrastructure. So to do that, projects must create revenue to ensure funds are available to continue operations and maintenance. With that in mind, the structure of the project has a solar power water distribution system that has a cashless revenue solution that allows people to draw water for less than half a pesewa per litre.
Aqua Africa's Managing Director Philip Foster commended the tri-partnership approach between the government of Ghana, the UK Export Finance and the private sector in securing the agreement that will provide access to clean water to over 225,000 Ghanaians.
Now, residents of the regional town in the western region of Olobun-Shada say their residents or their lives are on the line as waste from illegal mining activities and a rubber processing plant has poisoned the only river they drink from. As part of Joy News Safe Water Project, Justice Bade over to the community. Here is his report.
These are everyday scenes in Olobun-Shada, a small village in the western region. Getting water to drink is a daily battle.
This is all we drink, and now it is getting bad. Illegal miners wash their waste into it. People defecate around it. When we drink, all we do is to go to the hospital because we are always defecating and having many waterborne diseases.
All their problems aside, they have to deal with the waste that rising activities of Galamsey workers leave behind.
non chede oyade a ede yarba na nsusuasbon bi na da ma woni pedua.
People in Olobun-Shada are in dire straits, sitting on a time bomb of water poverty where they are exposed to many waterborne ailments. The villagers here face another challenge. Waste materials from activities that come from the rubber plantations nearby are washed directly into this river.
old season beer from October drokon grateful or damn be or one factory ho but say what's warrior what who man will be damn na insufi waste na chemicals na what they ejuma ho dam factory one ni no ogu egu hanu nsu no mo ogu yan nsu no be won na nsu ni na color adan green ma kroma fon wontum wonsa nsu wonom edisi nyama kra do ho wade onyeye ni bie mu nso nama o nsu no mu okunkum ni na mpo no nsu na nkasa no so kra beebi a wo a nipa wonanto wo kasa nso so no so kwanowa.
The residents here are hoping their story will change soon. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Olubo Ngada.
Now let's take you to the Ashanti region, where some parents in Kumasi are asking government to reconsider its decision to suspend general reopening of schools until early 2021. According to them, their wards currently are equally exposed to COVID-19 at home as they could be in schools. They're worried about the burden of combining work and taking care of children who are at home due to COVID-19 restrictions. Nana Sensu Mensah has more in the following report.
The decision has been taken by the Ghana Education Service after consultation with the relevant stakeholders for SHS2 and JHS2 students to return to school from 5th October to 14th December 2020 to complete their academic year.
So some parents, especially those who have their wards in upper and lower primary schools, are calling on government to include their wards in the new directive that will allow students, especially those in JHS2, to return to campus. Even in the face of COVID-19, they say that their wards are better off on campus than staying home.
This smelly, dirty gutter is a football pitch for these children in Cape Coast. The ban on all contact sports due to the pandemic certainly doesn't matter to them. None of the COVID-19 protocols mean anything to people here. In Kumasi, children are found playing outside with no regard for any of the protocols. Salamatu Mohammed, a mother of 3, is worried.
The school environment will be better because they are going to learn. And when they are in the house, they don't learn. Even when you force them to learn, they will never learn. So I think school will be better for them. There's COVID-19, but the children are in the house, and there are times they go out to roam about. And being in the school, it will be better because the school will put on measures that will take care of the children.
Dora Opong is a working mother with 2 children. Finding babysitters for her 2 daughters at home is her headache. She says, my 85-year-old mother used to take care of my kids, but now she's not fit. And I spend lots of money to keep my kids safe at home. Meanwhile, the premises of some private schools are empty and facilities continue to gather dust. At Bright Angels Montessori Village, proprietor Nana Osetutu believes reopening early childhood schools would be a relief to both parents and school owners.
5 months to 6 months at home. Additional 4 months to it will cause, a very great gap in the education sector. That is why there is an association of inquiry that states that if a kid stays home for more than 6 months, then it means that everything has to be restarted. So if you look at the economic background, the social background, even the cultural background and the psychological background, you can never do away with opening of a kids school, especially with the early childhood.
At Rock of Ages Preparatory School, preparations are underway to receive JHS2 students. Proprietor Isaac Body says cost of operating the school without the full complement of the other classes places a strain on resources.
Yewo JHS no wamu nyina no no so sa eti se a teacher for nwotwe enso na ya normal.
The JHS2 students are few, so we can't invest 8 teachers to only teach 20 students.
Kranka media means you can start by saying come JHS for nyina kra no emra and the enkola bedos kakra oteti ya bunya kakra de ama a teacher for no mo so di ahe omo abrabo mu.
Animal that we see on this earth has its own habitat and what is responsible.
Proprietor at Wasco School Complex, Benjamin Osuechang, wants government to consider paying salaries of employees as a relief to them.
From our proprietor, the information we are getting is that the finance is on low. So we are pleading the government to come in and help us. I know through that it will motivate us and we will get much confidence to teach the students to be able to pass and write their exams very well.
Nana Asensumensa reporting.
Now we take you onto the campaign trail, and former President John Dramani Mahama is promising to give seed money to the Upper West Regional Hospital so it could operate at full capacity. The NDC flag bearer, who is continuing his 4-day campaign tour of the region, also pledged to upgrade WA from a municipality to a metropolitan status. John Dramani Mahama lamented that several projects started by his administration have now been abandoned by the governing New Patriotic Party, and assured the people of WA he will complete those projects if re-elected in December. Rafiq Salam is on the campaign trail with the former president and reports from WA.
John Dramani Mahama is back to the century-old Wanas Palace, where he was once ensconced as a sub-chief and a skin name Napobokolena. Party stalwarts and faithful defied the torrential rain and accompanied him to renew his presidential ambition. He is in the Upper West region for a 4-day campaign tour. He touted the achievement of the NDC in government in the Upper West region, unmatched and unparalleled by any government. In fact, he described the Upper West region as the baby of the NDC. Mr. Mahama then recounted bevy of projects undertaken by his administration, notable among them the Jambuso Water, Wa Airport, and the Upper West Regional Hospital projects. He however gave an excoriating critique of the Akufo-Addo administration for the delay in the opening of the hospital, coupled with government inability to provide seed money for its operation.
As we all know, the hospital is struggling because it does not have seed money to be able to give the quality treatment that the people of Upper West deserve. And so I want to assure my father Wana and the elders and the people of Wa and Upper West region that one of the first things we will do when we come into office is to provide the seed money for that hospital to be able to run efficiently.
The issue of the Pompi, deployable Wahan to Mubolga Highway was also on the wish list of Mr. Mahama. He promised to fix it with a first-class road should he be given the nod in 2020.
Wa, capital of the Upper West region, and Bolgatanga, capital of the Upper East region, remain the only 2 regional capitals that are not linked with first-class roads. We started work on it before we left office. Unfortunately, the project has been abandoned. I can assure Wana that in our next administration, before we leave office, the road between Wa and Bolgatanga will be a first-class road.
The former president also lamented about stalled projects at the Wa campus of the University for Development Studies, UDS, who the NDC started before exiting power.
We had decided that we were going to turn the UDS into 3.
Well, that's it. Our latest news update. But we do have more news. We have a couple of the newspapers right here in the studio. Myself, Mamavio Sobwaje, and the Amnesty International man, Robert Akoto Amwafo. We'll be right back with those. Well, so we're back. Mama V is here. Mama V, good morning to you.
Oh, hi. Good morning there.
Right.
Welcome to 3rd of September.
Yeah.
Thursday, 3rd of September.
Good day.
2020.
We're inching closer to December 7th. That's a good thing about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Election 2020 will not be the same because of COVID-19. A lot of things haven't been the same. But I can't quite say it won't be the same, would it? I mean, when it comes to elections, nothing changes.
I think you just have to look at how the registration was patronized for you to make those conclusions. And even when we hit town, we give the mics to ordinary Ghanaians.
It's the same, COVID or no COVID.
It's the indiscriminate flouting of the protocols. It's as if we've never... You should go to the heart of Makula. You get to
well, I guess, you know, when it comes to certain things, for instance, economical stuff, when it comes to hand to mouth, when it comes to election, voting, people don't think about any other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking about the purpose.
Survival.
If you're hungry and you need to survive, then, you know, nothing else matters. But welcome to the news review. Shall we say good morning to our guest reviewer this week, Amnesty International's Robert Amwafu. Good morning to
Roberto.
Good morning to you. How are you all?
Charlie, we did good.
We're doing good. Yeah. How is Amnesty International? You know, we haven't... Let's spend about 30 seconds talking about your organization.
Okay, so Amnesty International is a global human rights movement. And what we do is to ensure that countries protect the rights of all persons, and we conduct research to make sure that everything's in place when it comes to protection of human rights globally. So we are in about 150 countries around the world, and we are a membership organization. So Mamavi and Roland, I'm enrolling you as members of Amnesty International right after this
You're
show.
a membership organization? I didn't know that.
It's a member, yeah. So members enroll, and it's really members who run the organization. We are just the face as staff, but the board that makes the main decisions are members who decide on what human rights issues in the country we should look at, and then also how much money we have, because globally it's our members who donate to run the organization. So we don't fall on raising funds through proposals. Our members donate around the world.
Okay. Now that's the catch, right? Because I was going to say, before Roland joins, you have to tell us if we have to pay dues or not. Now that you say members contribute, I'm afraid Roland can't join.
Our dues is about 20 CDs a year, and we have people like Roland who can donate any more if he wishes.
Okay.
Robert, you know why? You know, Mamavi likes to disgrace me all the time.
No.
But I have a very good friend who is always assuring me that things are on the right path so far. And that if I join such organizations like Amnesty International, the Ghana chapter, I'm well assured that things, he's got my back.
He'll pay your dues for you.
Yeah, even if I'm in some financial difficulties.
But we're happy to join, Robert. Thank you for the invitation. We're happy to join. Okay, let's do the newspapers now. Traditionally, I stick with the Daily Graphic newspaper, but today I've also got the Business Finder. We've got the Daily Heritage, the Ghanaian Times. We've got the Vanguard, the Daily Dispatch, the Daily Guide. So we're going to be doing all those papers for you. Let's start with our guest reviewer. Robert, take us through the papers that you have.
Okay, so good morning. I have the Vanguard first, tagged with truth and integrity. So let's hope what they are telling us are the truth and is bound by integrity. No corona test at Kutuka. That is what is on one of the first things in the corner of the paper, the right corner of the paper. Shan tribal bigots. Nana admonishes Ghanaians. They don't have the page here, but I wish there was a page so that we can check inside the paper. 3 NDC officials took off over 15 million Ghana cedis to the state, which is an interesting thing. I was watching the Parliamentary Accounts Committee on TV, I think yesterday, and it was an interesting thing to see how people are siphoning money in some of these venture capitals and government-run companies. It's something that we really need to look at. Failed MPP PC diverts families $400,000 to Men's Gold. Page 3. We are never finishing with Men's Gold, you know. And we have the Daily Heritage. ex-CEO, others begin refunding money to state. Security agencies losing respect on page 3 of the Daily Heritage. I think an expert is talking about how some of these security agencies are now becoming common people, and what we saw last time with soldiers being beaten and all of that. It's quite sad that the uniform wasn't able to scare people. Show us your work. Concerned youth of Asante challenge Akufo-Addo. EIB trains reporters in election coverage. Page 2 of the Daily Heritage. That's where you find that story. On the back page of the Daily Heritage, we have CAS throws out Palmer's case against GFA. I will continue following on Roland for some of these stories.
You're very spot deficit.
Very, very, very.
Oh,
if there was a vitamin shot.
I think we need to audit your knowledge spectrum so that when it comes to sports, we'll have to give you a chaperone, a henchman.
I'll pay consultancy so that you use that one to pay your dues in Amnesty.
Oh, Charlie, you have followed Mama. I'm disappointed in you. I followed you on social. I'm going to unfollow you.
I thank you. And we also have care to critical calls for unity at 26th GFA Congress. And it's very happy. It's very a good thing to hear that GFA is coming back on its feet, and we hope that we continue building it stronger and stronger. We love football, and we want to see a great GFA. The Daily Dispatch. There's another paper that I have, and I have my feeling, but tribalism not part of them. Akufo-Addo says. We also have on it an interesting thing that I've been mentioning a lot of the times during my time with you. Closing down which camps is impossible. Gender Minister explains, which I disagree with her. I don't think this minister is really serving us when it comes to this area. And I think that we really need her to push up as they are going for the elections, and we really need to question the government on their plan, especially when it comes to elderly people. On this matter, especially elderly women. It's unpatriotic. Hajide to minority overthreats to report a Japa deal to London Stock Exchange. That's on page 11 of the Daily Dispatch. My final paper, which is the Ghanaian Times, we have government to clamp down on witch camps. I wish this minister very well, but I don't see. I hope that she works to do this as she promises. President cast sought for construction of phase 3 of 5 district water schemes at Daklo, and that is on page 12 of the Ghanaian Times. We also have Park Direct CMC PAA to retrieve 312,784 Ghana cedis from defaulting staff. In the center spread of the Ghanaian Times, we have the story of the minister talking about the witch camps, and we also have the same story on the front page, which talks about the president casting salt for some water schemes in Adaklo. And then the senior minister office receives COVID-19 donation. We are still receiving donations for COVID-19. Finally, on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, we have CJ opens Amasaman Court Complex. I'm on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. And this is an interesting thing to hear, because justice system in Ghana is something that we really need to look at. As a human rights advocate, I think one of the things I'm going to ask a lot of questions for the politicians during this election is their commitment towards increasing courts, judges, and all of that, so that people can trust our justice system, and that will reduce instant justice a lot. Finally, KMA to lose 30% revenue, and that is on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. Back to studio, I'm done with my papers.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Let's continue with the daily.
One thing I've loved about Robert, gradually he warmed into this whole art of reviewing, and it looks like today is Thursday. He's ending tomorrow, unfortunately. But you're now so good at it. I'm thinking of hiring you.
We will serve you breakfast tomorrow, Robert. That's what Roland is trying to say. Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page of the Graphic. COVID-19 hikes debt service costs. Government re-strategizes for rebound, according to Deputy Finance Minister. But I've got to ask the two of you, Roland and Roberts, if you have a misunderstanding with your partner, how do you resolve it? Which is normal, really, but how do you resolve it?
You talk about it.
You talk about it. Okay, Robert, how do you resolve it?
And then you buy chocolate and some wine, and
Robert, you don't look like someone who is romantic, but your words seem to ooze some romantic ideas.
You guys are very sophisticated. Unfortunately, that's not what happened in the case of a 53-year-old who had a misunderstanding with his 50-year-old wife. He just pulled a gun and shot her.
Oh.
Yeah, and this according to neighbors.
And what did he do to
himself? He killed himself.
Wow.
He killed himself.
Oh,
neighbors say they told the police that when he realized what he had done, he shot himself as well. But apparently it's a trend. Let's go to the headline is on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says farmer 53 kills wife 50 commits suicide.
Wow.
And the police in the Bono region say that this is actually a trend. It's worrying the rising incidence of spousal murder, particularly in the Nkran Kwanta area where this incident actually occurred. So this is the Bono Regional Police Public Relations Officer speaking to the Daily Graphic. He explained that over the past 2 years, about 6 incidents of husbands killing their wives had occurred in the Nkran Kwanta area, with all of them still under investigations, although the circumstances under which they occurred had made it difficult to make any conclusive findings. He said there was the need to unravel the mystery behind such happenings in order to find a lasting solution to those heinous crimes in the area. Certainly, if you have a misunderstanding, I mean, no matter how deep it is, pulling a gun and shooting your partner is definitely not an option. Also on the front page, MTN versus NCA, Communications Ministry welcomes court ruling. Why won't they? Especially when it went against MTN. In the center spread, construction of the whole Sokode dual carriage bypass and the upgrading of internal roads on the campus of the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho Navoto region have started. Gender Ministry formulates policy to protect alleged witches. Embrace change, innovation in your careers. That's a call by the Vice Chancellor of the University of Professional Studies, Professor Bednego Okoye Amate. Details there in the center spread of the paper. We turn attention to the back page of the graphic. Efiam Kwanta Hospital receives supplies from USAFRICOM. And the Ghana Standards Authority hits market with aflatoxin campaign. What is that? Well, it says the GSA has begun a campaign to sensitize food sellers and consumers to mechanisms to prevent aflatoxin contamination and its negative impact on human lives. And let's see, according to the World Health Organization, aflatoxins are poisonous substances produced by certain kinds of fungi that are found naturally all over the world. They can contaminate food crops and pose serious health threats to humans and livestock. It attacks crops throughout the production chain, especially when non-resistant seeds are used for planting without proper cultural practices and good mechanisms. So certainly this kind of education by the Ghana Standards Authority is appropriate. Let's do the Business Finder. Front page, pensions. ICU rallies support for SNIT to enhance operations, beef up payments. Food prices to remain low, according to ESOCO. Details of that on page 5, a little bit of it. Commodity prices will continue to fall this month. Agricultural research firm ESOCO has projected. And according to ESOCO, this is because it is still the harvest season for most of the commodities grown down south of the country. This is going to increase the volumes that are supplied to the market, causing prices to fall. ESOCO reported that at the end of trading in the month of August, there was a general drop in commodity prices. Tomato prices plunged by 41.69% to close at 330.50% per crate. Pona followed with a drop of 9.07% to close at 815.50% per 100 tubers. The price of gari reduced by 6.02% to close the month at 223.14% per bag, with fresh cassava also losing 4.12% to close at 139.50 per bag. And then a bag of maize, 1.13% to close at 62.43%. So that's details. They've got prices also for the local rice, and then more on maize. You can check details out in the final newspaper today. Roland Walker, begin the walk.
Yeah, straight away. Let me just not for me not to waste time. Show you front page daily guide. Oga, kidnapping is our business. Witness tells court. Oga, kidnapping is our business. Very interesting human interest story. It's on the front page from the court as well, filed from second year by Emmanuel Poku. And then we have Rollins said for NDP Congress, venture capital NDC gurus shared 14.7 million. That's still ongoing case with Daniel Duku in the center of it. Nana Paris tribal agenda claims witch tortured with chainsaw. Now we have a number of stories also on the back page full of sports. It's about CAS, that's the Court of Arbitration for Sport, quashing Palmer's case against the election that took place to elect the KET administration. You know, it was not involved, so we questioned it. Daily Statesman has this front page for you. Daily Statesman, NDC appointees refunding stolen cash. Looters of 17.69 million want to avoid jail. Okay, so there's always play bargain in a way. Mavi can tell us a lot about it. About play bargaining. So there's nothing wrong. It's part of the judicial system. And but you know, First Lady commissions health center at Kwame Num. Meanwhile, down there, we're government to construct safe havens for alleged witches. Hey, I'm promising. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it now.
Safe haven. This whole issue of witches,
yeah, Amnesty International. You know, they are usually also at the center of.
Yeah, we need to find a way. Robert, let's talk a bit more about what you were saying when you did the review. You talked about the gender minister not doing enough in that area with regards to the witches situation, and you disagreed with her saying that it was impossible to close down all the camps. I think the reality really is that when you are discovered to be an alleged witch, if they call you that, sometimes you don't know when the people in the community will come for you. And I'm told that it's the chief who will normally make that pronouncement, and the people may come for you, and you may not be able to live in the community, which is usually the case. So the reason for the camps, this is like a place where you can go to, an alternative, because you no longer have a home. You no longer can live in the community. You no longer can live with your family. So what's the alternative for this? I don't know why. I would say, I mean, this is a crime, right? This is outright crime. I don't know why we're pampering people who are committing crime, and we are saying that we can't close down witch camps. I feel the priority really is to deal with perpetrators of these crimes, you know, deal with them as the books say we should.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I think that is what we are hoping that our minister was going to focus on, which is working with the law enforcement institution. Because like you mentioned, before we knew that the chiefs were the people who were supposed to pronounce, or the priests, the chief priests in those areas were supposed to pronounce that. But now people just pick a stick or whatever they have in their hand, and they go with the priestess or priest to the person's house. You know, the chief sometimes doesn't have a hand in all this. They go there, and then because I dreamt, or that you were in my dream and now my child is dead, or my child is sick and cannot get some healing, I come to your house and I butcher you, or I beat you up, and I have the support of the community because they believe in witchcraft and the potential of it. I think that the minister is not approaching this as strategic as we hope. Especially, we are not seeing any long-term plan, because this is not something that we believe can be solved now. And in my interaction with the minister, I made it clear to her that as we plan for a long-term solution to this, we need to put in place certain measures to ensure that whilst we are doing that, women are not beaten in that process. So the need to engage the systems that already exist, which is the NCC, SHRAJ, and the social workers in the ministry. Because the idea is that if you want to change something, you need to work with the community and the people who live in the community. But if you make pronouncements without engaging the people and just thinking in some breath you say that we'll close it, in some breath you are saying it is not possible, then you are not giving us a clear direction as a state representative of the issue that we are addressing. So for me, there are solutions. The solutions lie in the fact that we get our government to get our systems to work. You know, the police, when they arrest people, the community leaders do not go to the police station and say, because this person is my nephew, please release the person. And then that's what perpetuates the thing against the elderly women. And because it's against women, and if you understand the demography and the way the North works with women, it's something that also has something to do with how these people are treated. So for me, it's a bigger thing. We need a strategic plan towards it. We need to think about it. And I always tell them that it's not throwing laws at a problem. It's about also putting money available and the skills needed available to end this situation. So for me, I think that the minister can do something. We can't close down the witch camps, but we need a long-term strategy towards ending this.
All right, with that said, what will be your pick, Roland Walker?
Yeah, my pick definitely has got to be a story that the Daily Dispatch has about Nana Danko Kufuado during his tour of the Volta region, one of the areas, saying, I have my failings, but tribalism is not part of it. And we know that the political parties have tried to play mini cards against each other when it comes to which candidate is standing, etc. I remember vividly from 2008, Nana Danko Kufuado was tagged as somebody who is a drug addict, is a womanizer of a sort, is intemperate, etc. And then John Dramani Mahama too was tagged with various WhatsApp audios, etc. that he's of nothing decent, he's a womanizer, he's a drunkard, and that his flags always had a lot of gin or alcohol or spirits in them. And then we had a lot of things being said about the current president because of what has happened, the deployment of the soldiers along the borders within the period of registration, that he's a tribalist, etc. And on the other side also, there's still John Dramani Mahama also being tagged with a lot of things about the fact that he's a womanizer, he's corrupt and all that. The point is, when it comes to the electioneering, a lot of things tend to go on. But we need to know that in this Fourth Republic, we have outgrown some of these things. Look, this is instigated by the elements in the two top parties we have, the NPP and the NDC. So while the president is saying this, and the opposition, as John Dramani Mahama is also saying the other words to themselves or the electorate, they need to call their henchmen, their people, to order. It's the best way for us to end all these things about tribalism and then tagging each other as being womanizers and drunkards.
Well,
it's not nice. People, we look up to them. At the end of the day, they tag each other with all sorts of names, but they want us to take cue from what they intend doing for us when they become president, and so go elect them. I don't know how that tend to rhyme in their mind and also with us.
I just feel that around this time, when an issue comes up, we should get quick reaction. So if you want to dissociate yourself with something that has been said out there, do it quickly. You know, once it comes, so that we know that you're not entertaining their thoughts. But don't come back later on when that issue is even gone down to dissociate yourself. But I totally agree with you, Roland Walker. We've gone beyond some of these things, and we should discourage, if somebody sends you a message spreading that kind of information, you shouldn't continue to also spread it. I mean, you should discourage people from even sending you stuff like that. This time, we're dealing with issues. Thankfully, we've got the manifestos, so we can talk about the issues in the manifesto. That's what we should be concentrating on. We're waiting for the NDC's manifesto, which will be launched on Monday, September 7th. Robert?
Quickly pick on the first issue you began with, asking us about the romance issue. I think that yesterday you talked about the rape issue as well. For me, there are things on my heart, especially gender-based violence and violence, spousal violence. Some few years ago, we did a media scan of the issues of gender-based violence and violence against in relationships, toxic relationships. And I think that we push this into the back and people do not really pay attention to them, but they are really happening, you know, and people keep them to themselves and they get the sad parts of their thing. I'm sure this relationship, when it started, there were signs, clear signs that there were some toxic things, but as we always know, our community saying, oh, it's nothing, be in your marriage and all of that. And it caused a lot of people a lot of damage. And for me, I think that we should raise it up and talk about it, especially when it comes to women and gender-based violence. And the police should stop asking people to go with their forms. And then the doctor should stop asking for money when rape victims come to the hospital. I think it's a sad thing. It's reducing reportage of rape and sexual violence. And I think that the government needs to do something about this.
Okay, rightly said, Robert. We thank you very much again today. Let's party tomorrow, Friday, when you join us. That's the Executive Director of Amnesty International, Robert Amoah, for joining us for the review. Please pay attention to page 15 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The National Science and Maths Quiz has been duly launched. The balloting has been done. We've talked about it. But if you want to find out where your school is featured and which school they will be competing with, there is a publication in the Daily Graphic, page 15. Catch up on that. Good morning to my friend in Asia, Godfred Goba, and of course, Mr. Alexander Kweku.
Which part of Asia? Which are the first from?
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah. Oh, you see Japan? I said Japan.
Japan.
All right, stay with us. We've got sports. Messi simply won't go away. Messi is still in the news, but there's also updates with Osei Palmer's case, the verdicts as it was delivered. We're going to be breaking it down in sports for you. There's also the US Open. There are some updates, some fallouts as well. Yes, indeed, the countdown is on. You're on your election headquarters. Welcome to Voters' Voice. Today, the question we're asking is, will a party's manifesto convince you to vote? Here are voices from WA.
I believe in it because somehow it serves as a contract document that is signed between political parties and electorate. So to some extent, I do believe in it.
So do you think that it will influence the vote in the 2020 polls?
Sure, especially we want to have a general idea about how the various political parties will want to rule the country if given the opportunity. We know that in the past, it's not all that will always be fulfilled by political parties when they come into government, but at least some reasonable percentage, if it's being fulfilled, it's always encouraging. But we will want to assess the various political parties, what they come up with in their various manifestos, and that will certainly influence our decision on the elections.
I can't believe in all of them. I have to believe in my party.
So your party manifesto, you believe in it?
Yes.
Why do you believe in it?
I know very well that he will make it.
But why do you believe them this time? Why do you believe NDC this time?
No, you know, the NDC, he did something. And I know very well that when he comes, he will continue with it, what he has done for the previous time.
Certainly. And the reason is just not far-fetched. They serve as a serving contract and a blueprint and indicates the way and manner in which the various political parties seek to govern this country. So it is very important we vote based on the manifestos that each party presents.
And so you are still waiting because all the political parties have come up with their manifesto. So will that influence your vote in 2024?
Yes, it will surely do.
But what are the key things that you think that you are looking for?
I'll be looking out for a government or party that will be interested in promoting, first of all, a cordial relationship between all Ghanaians, and ruling and ensuring that all ethnic groups or tribes are well vested in the government. And again, I'll be looking at a party or government that will be ready to improve the infrastructural base of this country and also tackle the health and educational needs of our various districts and communities.
So we know that political party manifestos play a crucial role in visions of political democracy and for political analysis. What we don't know much about really is how they even come about in terms of how they collate what is contained in those manifestos. We will try and figure out a few things. But we've also come a long way. It hasn't always been like this, even though they've had their manifestos. Some time ago, we didn't pay a lot of attention to it like we're doing right now. At least that's what some political science analysts say. Joining me for a conversation on the back of what you've heard from WA on the voter's voice is Professor Ransford Jampo. He's a political scientist. He joins me via Zoom. Good morning to you, Prof. If you can hear me, thank you very much for your time. Hello, Professor Jampo.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Good morning, Prof. Thank you so much for your time this morning on Voter's Voice.
Thanks for having me.
So we're looking at whether or not people pay attention to the manifestos and if it influences their votes. We're hearing voices from WA, and apparently so, even though some people also say that they will only look at the manifesto of their political party. But I want you to take us back a little bit. We've come a very long way with political party manifestos. Now it's become the national agenda, if you like. Even we don't have a national development plan. It's become the national development plan, even though it's from a political party. So take us a little back. How far have we come?
The manifestos have always been important. They have been there for political parties. If you look at the directive principles of state policy, chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution, it talks about the need for political parties to play a certain active role to ensure the socio-economic, political, and cultural development of a country. And so various political parties, when given the mandate to rule, would want to act in a manner, or they want to campaign on issues that would, when satisfied, would fulfill the some of the tenets of the directive principles of state policy. And so right from 1992, political parties have sought to fashion out manifestos that sort of address some of the requirement of the directive principles of state policy. So they've been there. We've always used, make use of them. I am rather not sure that they have now become more important. I think between 1992 right up to somewhere in 2012, political parties held manifestos in high esteem. But from 2016 and up to now, I believe that political parties have not shown seriousness with manifestos, and voters have also been kind of aloof in not ensuring that political parties pay serious attention to it. Why am I saying so? In previous times, you have parties, because of the seriousness they attach to manifestos, always coming out of their manifestos about, let's say, about a year before elections, or 7 months or 8 months before elections. But in 2016, something unprecedented happened. you have the two main political parties trying to play hide and seek with each other. They didn't want to release their manifesto because they feel that, well, if I release first, somebody will copy and all that kind of, for me, trivial explanations. And so they released their manifestos very late, if you remember, in the lead up to the 2016 elections. And I was disappointed because manifestos are provide issues-based electioneering, and they are a heart of peaceful elections. If you want elections to be peaceful, if you want campaign to be peaceful, and if you want voting to be informed by rational choice, then manifestos will have to come out quickly and early enough for people to digest and to be able to understand the content, so that they can the contents can inform the kinds of discussion in the body politic in the lead up to election. But it came in late in 2016, and I was, well, maybe 2016 was a unique case, and so I was looking forward to we going back to the practice of old, where manifestos would be released early. It's about 3 months to elections, and the MPP just released their manifesto. The NDC is yet to do that, and I think this is unacceptable. Voters must demand accountability. The people of Ghana must call on their party leaders, on their flag bearers of various political parties, that they must treat them with some seriousness, because you cannot take people for granted. You hide your manifesto, you keep it right until 3 months to election before you release it. I think it's a very unacceptable practice, and we must condemn. I condemn the political parties in no uncertain terms for delaying the release of their manifesto. You see, in the lead up to 2016 elections, the manifesto provision that caught the attention of Ghanaians for the MPP, for instance, was just free SHS. Go and read the contents of the MPP manifesto. You'll see that it contains several provisions and several prescriptions that the MPP, set out to do when they went on. There were so many laudable ideas in their manifesto, and yet what caught the attention of Ghanaians was just free SHS, because there wasn't much time for people to read and digest. I mean, recently, as they launched their 2020 manifesto, I don't know whether you followed it. The president was at a radio station. He was asked a question about the construction of an airport in my home region, Cape Coast, and he wasn't sure. If you look at the responses that he gave, he didn't have his foot on the pedal, as far as that particular issue was concerned. 24 hours time, his vice president, in the launching of the manifesto, made a categorical and emphatic statement that they are going to do it because it is in their manifesto. It tells you that even the number one chief executive, of the country, and also the president, whose party was launching its manifesto, wasn't too sure about all the content. And so my point is that for us to be able to be serious as a people, we should launch the manifestos very early enough, such that each and every single Ghanaian would, at the minimum, be able to mention at the minimum 10 manifesto provisions or manifesto contents. So if it's NDC, we should be able to say MDC says they will do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. That's at the minimum 10, and not just one. Otherwise, it becomes difficult for us to demand accountability when people are elected to power. Okay. So if you talk about NDC, MPP now, what sank in the psyche of people is free SHS. And I'm thinking it is not only free SHS that the MPP documented in their manifesto. There are other laudable provisions. And so if politicians are serious, and if Ghanaians, we want to hold and demand accountability from our power and duty bearers, we should insist that they take us seriously and bring their manifesto early enough so that we can all
when you say early enough, when you say early enough, is it a year, 2 years before the election?
At the minimum, 1 year, 8 months to 1 year to an election.
Okay, but do we know how they even compile these manifestos in the first place? Should we care?
Well,
are they just promises?
Well, previously, politicians would just contract somebody or an expert to just do research or to sit in the comfort of his or her bedroom and to write something for them, and a document that they themselves would adopt as their manifestos. And you know that so many people within the party may not even be familiar with the contents and all that. But for some time now, political parties have adopted a new method or mode where they set up manifesto committees to collate views and to, if you look at the NDC, for instance, they said they were evolving or drafting the People's Manifesto. So they were going house to house to solicit views as to what they think should be in the interest of Ghanaians, or what the needs of Ghanaians, should be, and all that. And so for some time now, you have parties being innovative, setting up committees comprising people of various fields of expertise, and trying to put their thoughts together by first also consulting some Ghanaians. And like I said, NDC took a different, a more deeper approach by even going door to door and asking people about what they want to, they think the problems are and all that. And so the processes, in my view, have evolved. We have moved on from the times where one person will be contracted to prepare something and dump on the political parties, and the content will not be known, and to a situation where, at the minimum, committees are formed to look at the drafting of manifestos for political parties.
Okay, Prof, how do we hold the parties accountable? How do we push them to actually do what they've said they will do by way of what is contained in the manifesto?
Well, you can push them and you can demand accountability when you know the contents. And if you don't know the contents, then we can't push them. We can demand accountability. And so we will do so by you guys in the media highlighting the contents and seeing and empowering people with information about what they said they'll be doing, and encouraging people to be asking. You see, our politicians have succeeded in plaguing us with excessive partisanship that divides us. And so once we are divided, they know that they can have their way. They can just maneuver their way and dodge us and do all manner of things that pleases them. But once we remain divided, remain united, and we have a consensus that, look, certain things must be done, and if they have not been done, we will demand accountability. Politicians will sit up. You remember when politicians in parliament wanted to construct a chamber, Ghanaians across the political divide said no, and they had no choice than to abandon that idea. And so if we are all together and we are fighting, we are the quest to extricate ourselves from the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment is of utmost importance to us. Then first of all, we will not allow politicians to overly divide us into excessive partisanship. And then we would all together say that, well, you said XYZ in your manifesto. We understood you, we heard you loud and clear. And so we insist that you do them. If you don't do them, we boot you out of power. But because manifestos come in very late, oftentimes it becomes difficult for even the elites in the political parties themselves to be conversant with the contents of the manifestos of their parties. Go do a brief search of among the MPP elites or among the top echelons of the NDC and find out whether they are aware of the manifesto contents of their own political party, of the 2016 manifesto contents, and you will be shocked that you would have about 90 to 95% not being aware of the manifesto content of their own political parties. And if these elites who may have who belong to the top echelons of the political parties do not know, you don't expect the ordinary Ghanaian to know. More importantly, when they are also bringing these manifestos at the dying minutes, of an election year. I mean, it is an unacceptable practice that must be condemned in no uncertain terms.
I've also got to ask you how the manifestos have influenced the electoral chances, particularly of the main political parties, if they have at all.
All right. So there are four main theories that determine voting. Number one, we call the party identification model of party identification theory. Here, voters vote simply based on the parties that they belong to. So if I'm MPP, I just vote for MPP, not because of manifesto. And then there is also the sociological model that shapes voting. That one talks about where the person comes from. So people will say, well, we are all Fantis, and so we'll vote for a Fanti. The person is the son of the source, so we'll vote for the person. We attend the same church. We are all choristers. We all go to singing band and all that. Or the one contestant is the husband of my friend or something. That's sociological model. Then you have dominant ideology model where people vote based on ideology. And then you have the most important one being the rational choice model. The rational choice model simply says that people should look into their own life, and it's like a Shawasitne model of voting. Just look at your own life, assess what you need, and see who is promising what you need and who you think is credible in fulfilling what is being promised. And so when people vote based on that, on some of these things, then you say, well, they are rational actors or they are being influenced by the rational choice model of voting. Now, manifesto preparation or the contents of manifesto is always in tandem with the rational choice model of voting. If you prepare a manifesto, of course, you are going to document certain bread and butter issues confronting the people of Ghana. And if people look at it and they vote, it means then they are being rational actors. But sadly to say, I will tell you that you have a huge chunk of the Ghanaian citizenry voting based on irrational issues. And so then that tells you that the contents of manifestos do not really matter to the voting population, to a huge chunk of the voting population. Over the years, we have voted essentially based on the party identification model. It's a fledgling democracy. It's a developing democracy. And so people do partisan alignment, and partisan de-alignment is always difficult in fledgling democracies. What I mean by partisan de-alignment is difficult in fledgling democracies is that once the person signs up to be an MPP or NDC supporter, that is it. He supports NDC, and no matter the situation, he votes for the NDC. And so when he votes for the NDC, he expects his children to vote for the NDC, he expects his spouse to vote for NDC, and all that. And once the person belongs to that party, with the greatest of respect, even if you put, quote and unquote, a non-entity there, that, well, this is the choice of the party, people vote. So they vote for party and they don't vote, and that is all. And so when that becomes the issue, the MPP supporter or the NDC supporter doesn't really care about what is in the manifesto. Once he is MPP, he votes for MPP. But take note of this. That is not to say manifestos are not relevant. Manifestos are relevant, and they are the documents or the contents are assessed by electoral kingmakers in deciding who must win an election. And so the point I'm trying to say is that, you see, NDC may have a core support, a 40% core support base. NPP may have a 40% core support base. Now, the 40-40 core support bases of these two parties are always not enough to determine who must win an election. There will be something like a 15-20% support, 15-20% voters who are floaters, who are always undecided, and who are the election kingmakers. These are the highly educated, these are the objective thinkers, these are people who would always want to go by the rational choice theory of voting. And so they look at what you say and the contents of your manifesto before deciding whether they want to swing their vote to party A or party B. And so to that extent, the manifesto is very important. It may not be important to the diehard party supporters who are only influenced by the party identification model of voting, but it becomes important to the 10, 15, 20% citizenry or voters who are influenced by the rational choice, model of voting, and they are the election kingmakers.
Okay. All right, Prof, we'll have to leave it here. I want to say thank you to you for your thoughts, the insights that you bring to this conversation. We'll put what you said to test. Wait and see, even though it's a very short period, to see how much of these promises in the manifestos the people themselves remember, apart from what the political parties say on the political platform. We appreciate your time. And that's Professor Ransford Jampo there. He's a political scientist. The voters' voice today from WA has been whether or not the manifesto will influence your vote. We had there the importance of political party manifestos. One of the things that Prof said, which would stay with me, is apart from the key things that are said, which is usually one thing or two, what else do you remember from the political parties' manifesto? Also calling for them to release the manifestos at least a year, 8 months to the election so that we can all be familiar with its content and hold them accountable. That's voters' voice today. Thank you for your time. Stay with us. There's plenty more to come here on the AM Show.
I believe in it because somehow it serves as a contract document that is signed between political parties and electorate. So to some extent, I do believe in it.
So do you think that it will influence or vote the 2020 polls?
Sure, especially we will want to have a general idea about how the various political parties will want to rule the country if given the opportunity. We know that in the past, it's not all that will always be fulfilled by political parties when they come into government, but at least some reasonable percentage, if it's being fulfilled, it's always encouraging. But we will want to assess the various political parties, what they come up with in their various manifestos, and that will certainly influence our decision on the elections.
I can't believe in all of them. I have to believe in my party.
So your party manifesto, you believe in it?
Yes.
Why do you believe in it?
I know very well that he will make it.
But why do you believe him this time? Why do you believe NDC this time?
No, the NDC, he did something. And I know very well that when he comes, he will continue with it, what he has done for the previous time.
Certainly. And the reason is just not far-fetched. They serve as a 7 contract and a blueprint and indicates the way and manner in which the various political parties seek to govern this country. So it is very important we vote based on the manifestos that each party presents.
And so you are still waiting because not all the political parties have come up with their manifesto. So will that influence your vote in 2024?
Yes, it will surely do.
But what are the key things that you think that you are looking for?
I'll be looking out for a government or party that will be interested in promoting, first of all, a cordial relationship between all Ghanaians, and ruling and ensuring that all ethnic groups or tribes are well vested in the government. And again, I'll be looking at a party or government that will be ready to improve the infrastructural base of this country and also tackle the health and educational needs of our various districts and communities.
So we're in to speak to the Chief Executive for the Students' Loan Trust Fund. And we do know that, well, the CEO has great experience in many areas over the years, and having the responsibility also means that Nigeria would have more to deal with, our country. Thank you for joining us. Good morning to you.
Yeah, thank you, Roland.
Yeah, okay, great. But the first thing that struck me was I needed straight away to ask a question as to what the announcement was by the Vice President, etc., about no guarantees. But let me leave that now.
Okay.
How have you been over the period?
Over the period, we brought some changes to the Student Loan Trust Fund. But let's start with a brief, history.
Yeah, it's always important.
Yes. From independence to mid-70s, tertiary education was free in the country. Those who went to university at that time, didn't pay anything. But at that time, it was just 3 universities, Legon, Capus, and KNUST. But by mid-70s, I think after mid-70s to 80s, it was becoming difficult for the free tertiary. So there was introduction of book loan that was administered by Ghana Commercial Bank. Then in the 80s, SNIT came in, and so SNIT was administering the student loan. In 2005, during President Kufuor's time, the scheme was changed from SNIT to student loan as we have now. But, with SNIT, we didn't inherit, their portfolio and, indebtedness.
The database and all that.
And all that. Okay. So we started from a clean slate.
Fresh.
Fresh.
Now, it will mean that you're dealing with a number of applicants, or you have dealt with a number of beneficiaries. Can you give us up to date, if it's possible, to do some annual extrapolations for us? We'll be happy.
We currently we have over 30,000 students that we are giving loan to this year. We have 119 tertiary institutions under our portfolio that we give loans. So from 2006 to the present day, we do an average of about 30,000, annually.
If you take a look at those who tend to apply currently, they come from which backgrounds, diverse backgrounds? What specifically do you look out for as a trust?
To apply for the loan?
Yeah, exactly.
Or to apply for the loan, you need to be a Ghanaian to start with, and then you must apply for SNIT card. Then you create an eSwitch account. You must have gained admission to a tertiary institution. Okay, and the tertiary institution must be accredited, and the program we are pursuing is accredited program. And then after all that, you need a guarantor, somebody to guarantee for you.
I remember back in the day, my time, I had to go looking out for guarantors, etc. You go through SNITs, and it was sometimes a torrid time because of past experiences in redeeming the loans. How is it with the trust currently?
Okay, the search for guarantors has chronically been a headache, for the fund. So historically, we keep reducing the guarantors from 3 is currently 1. Okay, but even getting the 1 guarantor is difficult for a lot of beneficiaries, because the guarantor is not just any other person. It has to be somebody who contributes to SNIT. In other words, it must be a civil servant. So
a SNIT contributor.
A SNIT contributor. Okay. Okay. So if the person is not a SNIT contributor, they cannot guarantee for you, and that poses, difficulty for some of the beneficiaries.
Because I spoke to a number of those who had guaranteed for others in the past, and their main difficulties was, and that was with the old scheme, they couldn't trace those who had benefited, those they had guaranteed for, How is that situation with you? Because I know that's the old order with SNIT. How is it with you in terms of your recoveries?
Okay, in terms of our recovery, okay, we are not depending heavily on the SNIT, on the guarantor. We go to the guarantor when our system triggers that the guarantor is about to go on pension. That's when we go to them. So what we've done is that we've put a lot of systems in place that helps us to recover. And we are doing much better recovery, not necessarily depending so much on the guarantor.
Mr. Yebwa, is that the case?
That's
so what have you done then? What has been some of the extreme innovations that that makes it possible in the working life of a beneficiary to do the recoveries?
Yes. Okay. Let me quote some figures here.
Please do.
In 2016, when I, took this position, the recovery for the year was 15.4 million. By 2019, we've been able to move it to 36.6 million. So if you compare the figures, it's about 138%. How did we do this?
Yeah, how did you do it?
Okay.
That's a very interesting question.
Interesting question. First of all, I implemented the law, meaning...
you actualized the law, you say. The way the act was, you decided to implement the law.
No, I mean, the act is the act, but there are certain provisions in the act that mandates us to do certain things that were not done. Okay, for instance, we had to publish names and faces of people you may call defaulters. Okay, and even though there was a lot of brouhaha, out there, it helped because most of the people whose faces were published came and settled their indebtedness. And a lot of people didn't want their faces to be shown. So they also came and, settled their indebtedness. We also, we are maintaining sustained education to borrowers, okay? So I created what we call as Recovery Month. We dedicated 1 month. It was in May. Therefore, this year, because of the COVID, we moved it to July. So during the month of May, we hit the airwaves. We go to press, we send text messages, everything, reminding borrowers to pay, and also educating people where they need to go to pay. Okay, that has also increased recovery significantly. We've established employer compliance desk, a desk dedicated where staff interface with employers to remind them to deduct money and send to us. That has also helped. And we also encourage borrowers that the earlier you start repayment, it reduces your interest and also rate and all that. And people are doing it. So we have people who started paying even when they are doing their national service, even though the law doesn't mandate them to pay at that time. That also helped. And we've introduced additional payment platforms to make it easier for borrowers to pay. Like now, you can pay with, your phone. You don't have to come to student loan or go to the bank.
So you have like maybe a Momo account or short code.
Yeah.
That gets into a certain account.
A certain account, and people are using it. And we've
using the mobile phone.
Mobile phone, and
that's very interesting.
Yes, and we've also set some online platforms that people overseas in the diaspora could use their Visa and MasterCard to pay, and that is also helping. So when I came, it's being in the books, diaspora recovery, but I actualized it by going to. I went with the recovery manager to US, okay, and we've also sent our PR manager to UK. We met with a lot of Ghanaians in the diaspora And what we saw is that it wasn't like they didn't want to pay, but some of them, didn't even know how to pay, where to go to pay. Okay, we've done that, and we've set up what we call as student loan ambassadors in the US and in UK. There are some radio stations that periodically would remind people. We've also, with the Ghana mission in New York and Washington, D.C., they've agreed to, whilst you are doing your renewal for passport, and visa and other things, that there will be a video about student loan reminding people. So they've all accumulated into improvement of our recovery. Then one thing that I did, that's we did a training on data analysis and recovery techniques for the operation staff. You see, so all those things help, and we are also, linking with other agencies, DVLA, GRI, NHIS, and those kinds of agencies. So that integration helps us to recover, to trace. Okay, so you see that the guarantor, what the guarantor was doing was to help us to trace, but we have better methods of tracing the borrower than the guarantor.
Than before, logically.
Than before, yeah.
Now, in the United States, of course, it's sad that we don't have a national database yet. You barely would default, even though the default rate is high, but it is, the collection is linked directly to your earnings on the national database. So definitely you can't escape the payment of your student loan. Do you think we'll get to a time when somebody starts work, you will get to know where the person is working, and this is the institution that is supposed to be debiting its account, etc., etc., and you will be the beneficiary?
Even now we have it. If you start working in the formal sector, we are notified that you work here. So the Controller General, that they deduct and send to us.
You mean if you work with government?
If you work with,
the public or civil service?
Yes, we do that. Okay. So our challenge is with the informal sector, and that's what we're working on.
The private sector?
Private sector, the private sector. But that's what the Ghana card, okay, with the introduction of Ghana card, we'll be able to get to where you described, as we go along.
So let me take it in the typical scenario. Ghana card, I have a Ghana card, I'm registered in the database. How is the trust, the Students' Loan Trust Fund, going to benefit from that in its recoveries?
Well, the Ghana card is going to be the unique identifier, and that is going to help us with the linkages. Okay, so now you take the student loan, then you go to DVLA for your license, driver's license. It can tell you that you are indebted to student loan. Go make arrangements with them. You're going to get passport. It comes out, okay? And also, like, even with GRA, okay, GRA, that you are going to pay your income tax and all that. Okay, so Ghana card is going to be that indicator that will help us locate. And then as we're going along, we are even going to maybe use your phone number, GPS, and other things to track borrowers. Okay, so in the past, you take the loan, you go and, you change your phone number, and we can't find you. Now we are getting past that period.
Now, having said that, I have to ask a question about how many people have collected from the time that you started on a clean sheet, let's leave SNIT out, and have not been able to pay back? Borrowers, because I'm using your words. Borrowers from whom you've not been able to recover what they access from the fund.
Okay, you see, the way our loan travels, basically you have, when you take the loan, you have 10 years, basically to pay.
Okay, so between 8 and 10 years?
8 and 10 years.
To do the recovery?
Yeah, to do the recovery.
You have to do the recovery, or you have to pay back. If I borrowed, then I have 10 years.
Yes.
To pay you back.
After the 2 national service and the grace period, you have 8 years to pay back. Okay, so the way we calculate our what you term as default is different from the banks. Currently, we have about 4,000, that, have gone past the period where they need to pay. Yeah.
That's how much?
How much in terms of?
How much did they access? That's how much in quantum in your accounts. You have it?
Well,
you finish me with that later.
I can finish with that later, but
But that's the number, 4,000.
Yeah.
Okay. How much since 2005, or let's say the last 5 years, have you been paying students? Has it changed in any way? What's the current rate? Has it changed the last couple of years?
Yeah, it has. It has. In fact, before 2016, okay, the amount that was given as loan was a minimum of 1,000 and a maximum of 2,000. And the president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, made a campaign promise that he would increase the loan by 50%. Okay, he has implemented that promise. So now the loan, the minimum is 1,500 and maximum of 3,000. Yes. So when I came in 2016, the quantum of money that was given for loans was 28.9 million Ghana cedis. We've moved it to 78.9 million. So that's
between from 2016 up to 2020.
Let's say 2019.
2019, the last financial year, not the current one. Now from 28 average million, we're talking, we've now gone to 70 million.
To 78.
78. The Vice President, just about some 2 or 3 weeks ago, before the manifesto launch, did announce that now my son can come and access student loan in Ghana, and there will be no need for that son of mine to use a guarantor, or a guarantor will not be required. How did that sit with you as a trust, or you do the bidding of government?
No, I mean, as a trust, we think it's a very forward-looking policy.
Why?
Yeah, pragmatic, because like I've told you, that the jump that we've made in recovery, it wasn't, guarantor dependent. Okay, so the guarantor didn't help us. Out of the 36 million that I mentioned, about 6% was when we resorted to the guarantor. The guarantor, the only time that we go to the guarantor is one is we are triggered that we are going on pension. But when we go to the guarantor, it's not like you've gone and the guarantor give you their pension to settle the loan. In most instances, they would either replace, find somebody to replace them, or they would help us track the borrower. Okay, so to track the borrower, and now from next year, SNIT is even moving away from the bulk payment. Okay, so if you are going on pension and they are giving you, spreading your payment over a period of time, you think the guarantor is going to use that money to pay for the loan? No. So if the guarantor then becomes an obstacle for people accessing the loan, then, when we take it, off, it's a good policy. It's going to help a whole lot of students to be able to access the loan. Let me give you some figures here to buttress the point I'm making.
Please do.
Okay. If you look at, from 2017, about 399,046 borrowers. I mean, 399 students in tertiary institution. Okay, those who accessed the loan were 32,760. Even in 2018-19, out of 347,170, only 30,870 were able to access the loan. And from what we are getting, okay, and these are reports from institutions, from KNUST and SRC former president called him. He said in one academic year, about 800 students come chasing him for guarantors, which he couldn't find them. That means these are 800 from what he's reporting who couldn't access the loan. But further analysis show that these borrowers are people who are, the first time from their families having, coming to tertiary institutions. So it was affecting the needy student to access the loan. Okay, so if we get a forward-looking government that has seen this bottleneck and is removing it, it's something that must be applauded.
But if we have to conclude, what do you assure the student community of? The community or the market that generally you provide your services for?
What I will assure them is that this is a very pragmatic policy. That is, I think the thinking behind it is that Ghana is pushing, tertiary enrollment to a very higher level. And the more people you can get through to tertiary, then you are building, a very robust economy because you're getting educated population and all that. Okay, so my plea is that now money should not be an obstacle in pursuit of higher education. You see, because after, let's say, a lot of people had this at the back of their mind that, okay, my children are going through high school, but they couldn't have attained high school education but for the good policies of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, after graduation from free SHS, what next? Now, the president is telling you that if I'm voted and maintained in power, that headache is gone because now you can access, a student loan without a guarantor. But interestingly, in all the advanced countries, you mentioned USA. USA, the backbone of free SHS is student loan. And that's what the government is implementing.
High school system?
High school system, because high school system in US, unless if you choose to send your kids to private high school, is free. And after the free high school, the sweeper, as well as the higher executive, they know that their children can go to tertiary institution because they can go and borrow to help their kids through.
But the US system too is very much community-based, right?
Yeah.
You go to school in your community.
And that's what I tell people, that the sort of free SHS that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has implemented in Ghana is more comprehensive than what pertains in US. Okay? Yeah, in US,
You've lived in the US.
I lived in the US, okay. So the free SHS Ghana is implementing is more comprehensive than US. US, your kid go to school, and then at the end of the day, they come home. Even when they eat lunch, depending on your income, you have to contribute to it.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fruitful discussion this morning, very short, but also very educative, and we hope that we can have such conversations in time, as now that we have this policy to stay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to further, discussions with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And what a way for us to end this discussion. And it also means that for you, the student body, if you want to access loans, if you need it, definitely the Student Loan Trust Fund is available for you. Its Chief Executive Nana Kweku Ejeyeboa has been interacting with us. But that's where we bring the discussions to a close. We have to go back to the studio for more. And as always, we have to get interactive. Go to a community near you. We have Manuel Kranting somewhere in Choco right here in Accra and interacting with some residents. We'll go over to him. Manuel, good morning to you. How are the scenes around you like right now?
Yes, Roland, good morning. And so, with what's supposed to be a scenery and really an attraction to tourists, it's now turned into what you say a robber of the livelihood of fisher folks. I'm standing at the landing site here at Choco, where the fisher folks who go offshore, you know, to fish, come to land. Now, the most visible things you can see are the impact of plastic waste, with the non-biodegradables, you know, almost ruling here. They tell me that this is a menace that they've been fighting for so long. And really, Roland, this would be the least of their challenges. In my earlier interaction with some of them, they tell me that there's no sort of, you know, sanitation exercise that is carried out here. I've been talking to a few of the people here who tell me that with this entire stretch, well over 4 kilometers, there's no public toilet here. And so what they do is to essentially, do their thing just at the shore. Interesting, isn't it? I'm trying to find a few of the people to speak to me here this morning, how they are able to deal with this situation right here at Choco. Well, so I can see the knee jersey of Sempe, he's here, and also the Ochami of the Sempe Stool land. He's also here. Let me just try to get a bit closer to them and speak to them this morning. Good morning, morning. What baby what be a few ni one na joy rubber can it be mini buy be rubber engage.
Rubber agent show me to me you all na kani. To mo na na gbasa no bi o ne. Ngo na aga ngune chincha na nyeba do onye bi o ne sande. Wodu mo chokon show na acho bi chokon show na Galilee show na ne. If to mo bi o mi gbe acho bi adoteji simple chami jimi. If me we na gba pi on show na. Nyamra alofo ni government o ka gmenye yi an wanya atu ni ya wo. Abaga MP president fe wona na aya ba ngone what touch na kan is 4 years abaga odumo ba so eko insho na wo le me obi wo no wo sa wo fe eko an wonye aga fi assemblyman be be assemblyman me fe wona ko no ko na wo to Galilee won yue assemblyman chengbe ka so eko wona ko no ko na kura ya bi so na na beri an banamba lakawo na ngo odumo ba so wo fe na no mi wota wona ko no ko na insho na fe chaga wo le me onu kwa na mete wa na me ya no me sa show na nika wo le je wo ba na me nyo ma me lo fufu wo le ma me gazi ka me je wo ma me ntumo wa egwo lo amba me egwo me ha me wo me nga fi me na agba de to ma me sa be obi e ko me na me nye anye me wo to ko gba me kan Agnet hospital le ga Agnet won aga coronavirus ege akwele ege pa ege gbo nle coronavirus le na wi wo le sade ne wo choko wo na ko ko da aje choko wo le ma bi ni ya me pie ni tafla je man pro people ame aje me ni choko wule me ameke following be for us and the bar whatever ne na agba ila ne ake disturb we lo me pi choko man ge ene sana me sabi e denche amanya me saje ge tafla che no ko gba me na ga me to hospital abaga coronavirus afu ameda e ge po e ga gbo wona na kan
okay, well, Roland is telling me that this is a problem that they have been fighting and dealing with for a long while now. The assembly folks do not do anything to help them. He says that they sometimes have accidents. When they are taken to the hospital, the doctors tell them that they have coronavirus, something they do not believe. But Nijase is also here. I want to speak to him quickly and ask him how this affects their yield when they go, upstream. Ni ofane ni boni ni ochami we bia ne eke amra lo bia aba wanye chike nyete show me ene be na lu alo nya na lu
no ochami we eji anu kwale leke dwe no una na edule sine
Ecomejo call me. Ecomejo gata say, ni really will hear no me. The babotio insure me. Be come new ya, Belly say, any Sanwa Maya and one low. The Jame, come where the Onalu. There may lunch about swishing. Yeah, she come. Come on, she come to Mono Bill and they call back. Assemblyman say, I'm a wow, Ejan Quali. Election time, my man you was say. One of an Asan Shona, Kenny, no man. And then, you are catching a go to Bashoy, a BNN. No, don't on any education. Papa, any to machine in the Minupani. I told her, Dakupeli. Let the money equate, Epita will I say. The true one can Yeme, the Kamisa, in Shona, the BNN. She, I can assemblyman say, no, you are Miss, and why assemblymen? Your chocone, where assemblyman, your choco, be a choco will army. Galilee Shona, to one in your minute, a year. Nakantiponi, a chobi and Mo, assemblyman, a mean care wake. I'm a wow, ye beer. Manekaji, or a beer and a call on the jomi. The Shrono, no take Dr. Pe, a kaka, coronavirus, a mobu. Naka coronavirus, no way. I'm a gang baby. Many coronavirus, Moku Ame. They are confessed more twins to feel, or all of you know. Coronavirus.
Mabanwari coronavirus say he's an few, but Roland is telling me that it's a problem here. So the cycle is repetitive. So that after every 4 years, politicians come here, organize cleanup exercises with them, and try to get them to vote for them. He tells me essentially that for them, the politicians are playing with their mind. And it's a game that they are willing to end this time. He mentions Dakupele. Dakupele is, I'm told, the gentleman who has taken upon himself to be doing the cleanup exercises here together with the fisher folks. And I want to find out from him. He's been mentioning to me, you know, a particular gutter that is struck. Ni Dakupele, oh, Kiamiake, gota kuyese, ni roba, eja mamprobi kanibi, Kiamino.
Gota kokan yeni magba ye mi achom da kupeli gota e be fokwa e be ngbenu e kan Galilee somotwem e jaman probi shele unke cho Uganda somotwe unke ba shona echi wo ywe ka wo ywe ko nupa mene ba e ba sha ka wo nupa mene ba e ba sha ka wo nupa mene ba ka je voici c'est un gamba amenye Oblanya bia ngma wolo ka ba sha insho na ve wo muji wona ndogona ni
aka wole cheme ne de nche ni nya wo bia muji
je wo bia na muji gota ejo sebe le lu ajo je no pe manya me ma twa me gota to mo ajo eyin no go ve won kanka me twa ma me le weyin kanyu mo ne ba lojo eje roba ji no ni je wo nu fe
Dakupele, who is the leader of the team that has been cleaning here periodically, is telling me that this is indeed a problem. He says that the rubbish, in fact, most of them, plastic waste, flow all through from Mamprobi and towns behind there when it rains. If we are mentioning Kaneshi and others. And so there's a problem. But in Babia, in Quebia few, in a town open defecation, each on Akaya near me and Shona. It was an my public toilet, few Gaham and Bia Kuna use. She could be a fan. No, I'm a quick one.
Echo Betoring, maybe Kawa jaje go wo post ko board mo na be abana akwa kati na ba ko e 20 aba politics so afio politics if the man fe amount obi ni be ba le be MPP ga ndisi ampa meleni na me odumo e Ghana no yo
o ke Choco Galilee Choco Nshona na fe public toilet ko me pe yo bi
e ko kura be bi e lo e fi to Nshona na awa a stop lo enye anya stop we bona e ko me to ne be bi e because when you go to the mommy, no to miracle.
Interesting. He says that there's no public toilet here. And you remember that the government has been on a campaign to stop open defecation, what essentially comes with constructing some public toilet facilities for communities, especially around the coastal areas. They're telling me now that there's absolutely not, any public toilet around here. And so what they do is, maybe okay, what any public toilet, baby, toilet.
No, if you to mama, some sure na eko be na me wa bora. Nigga wa be pie ko me a when fit. Sure na ma some got time gani bi. Police we wa mumu ame. Si face one woman be one boy more than one you know. I feel lolo. Bona, we feel to toilet me ko be nye fe ko ma wo a machine ni amenya so la nye lo mu fi amo. Ani asumi. Bona, o majority of sure na me so ni amewa. Bona.
This is interesting. I'm being told that, I mean, it's a norm here to do, in fact, to feel convenient around the shore. And that's where they do it. Even though they are swooped sometimes by the police officers, that is really their only option. And they are not left with much. And so they are calling for the construction of some public toilet facilities here. They say a number of people have already promised. No, okay, about promising here. Now we get about promising here.
About to know you are MP assemblyman get to as a 4 year capacity be get to 4 years in
MP any obi a change Okovanapo.
I'm fair by you.
I'm fan up ke ba fi toilet anya fi.
Eba you see on have to money am no ba lash o neba you na jemi o aba you na ga you mo don be ga ba laka we ga ba go do mo share ga ti ton NDC you ga meti MPP you ga meti won na go kura da
me turning get now real coronavirus because I will face mask what am wani will face mask ne it's an issue when in cameraman kemen ke ba fe mo fian will face mask she me kwen fe ke de mami fe na ban show na mo ko will face mask because an enemy be again you know I will face mask eh
tomorrow you are wo see if you me again ona truka no no oba na wo sunta me ka won ya mami da na ko yo she no no show na no one show na agbege ni we kia show ga wula mu ga ni bi face mask onye wo wuchu sibeni agela mi wo wa le anu kwale wo fe wo yusu e bi.
So he's telling me that well they wear it when they're going to town, but in their homes and especially around the canoes here where they park, they don't wear it because they feel that they are within their own jurisdiction, which is not safe. I want to speak to a few of the youth here and talk about what they have. So quickly, let me bring you over no Benkemi. Over no Benkemi. Feel over no Kemi I really last. Ni just finally done over ya. Kemi I really okay. Coronavirus face mask and your work she in the near shine on your face mask. Coronavirus a beshia a be mammy. If you know your coronavirus by your mobile or me on your woo.
Oh, tomorrow you may hear nothing be any bad market in short and bad money. True car, Brian Chunoku, a BNN. You may give an army, not in my jail on it. Any jail on Mako, you know, Ninkaba. Ona, here jail on Maconi and Ninkaba. She be an like a nose mask, is an owo. Shumbo, Giddy go my bien and not chamin fake Ninkaba. No one in war, like a affairs, and any away, Jimmy.
What now for Shiki? Dakupeleke ni jasi na ya fon shiki December mini nyenta oni amra lo afi anye mini ke ake aba fi ha tokon show na be try ke ne ba fon shiki ha party
oh no ni ompeji taji wo anka ma fe no kama wonu wo to na me fi ama wono nji boni show na ne yo sani be fe na me fa me to boni zula yo ba ne ba bon nu chumo e bi ene sa me na moko me ko me zula yo ko lo Nuchula go company go crow, the banya a cleaning shona, a sanction of fair or no like a can comito. Manima do machine my vote, no woman my vote. But fame on is an vote, manima vote. Maha. I want to shona on it, Shonane, and Babian Lebeniji. Many Babian in Banabian, Boni, in Alachuku, and Nakano Banalebie. First, when Zula or be Babie, Shona Fain again. She menekaje Ninda Kupeli. Jimone e koi you will chance and it tower me na me sabi in our few owner.
So he's telling me that what will get him to vote in December is a promise to have regular cleanup exercises here and get the place cleaned regularly. Here me here and I feel like clean up can be a robo tabafete no vote to have me part me no town amra lo afia abalu party fan in town no vote and let me no town afia
no ni gba na peji gota je ni dwe jo mi ne ke ban sho na abasa gota me ga sa gota no peji ni gba problem ka sa tafrache ye ya ni ame wo mi na me chi obo la won ame wo mi ame fita no ni jogon no e ba yi de ba gba wona e sho na e wa nu kwale na ne so fi evite pinkaze la won evite uvalo la won evite no fa no evite ni ka je na bia me ga sho so fi ba yi ni sana sa sho na bona fe sho na che gota le sana ba sa ka no peji problem kwa no gba na fe toilet po
Ote gota gbo na po fi toilet.
Gota no mabo memini. Kola. Aga ena chanlo no jeno gota jin yo. Ne bengbe no ni kenye sumo, kenye ba nye unye kwa gota jam. Kenye sha e bengbe no.
Okay, so he wants the gutters to be fixed. The gutters are choked and he says that he wants them to be desilted and then he will give his votes to anybody who does that. But let me speak to the youth. Last year, by this time, there was a closed fishing season. And so essentially meant that for a whole month or so, there was no activity in the ocean. I want to find out how different exactly that has been from this year when you didn't have a closed fishing season. Last year, I closed fishing season. This year, I last year, low namo. This year, low namo.
Last year, I not low fe. This year, many ya wo. Analu fe. First, analu fe na analu.
Me no analu.
But do again you on show me wa analu. Wo do o sananya wa san show na. Dani ka wule gente wo na anya analu.
Great. So he's telling me that last year's, world was better than this year's because of the plastics in the ocean. So it suffocates the aquatic life therein, and so they are unable to make wholesome catches. Let me bring a few more people. I get what me to blind here, go blind here, fan you be a wire.
Often word that be almost more 2 years be bane na ke yo low aya my face aya even here polenche na me yo shian polenche always say me complain because of joy can be or kati work agbla joy ke ba kati work joy mo ba no bien mo firmo eko eta because
mo firmo nta eko ta ni aya we me na feel
to wa fete ni tu be ma no ko be ma me obi na just wanya me ke nyami me na kan no trash wa if you
ake afi napco afi youth in afforestation can be me nya so weku
what's more she bole guarantee is this and here but all me ko te me guarantee sane nyoyin no bien on bi manielo ake wota ani manielo ile ake je woni shi ijo wo shishije ni fimo kani no fe no yojogba no fe no mo fe amo wo fe o wa yin yojogba shi mo ko wa ye e ma se ne ni bi yin ko akole onyo gbla la ke awa bu na afi na poneken afi neken even registration afi obi ana pe polenche still wo polenche bi ana po won suffer because wo youth FN wo je no won ta no kwa apa bi ana wo na ke ni bi kume ya no wo ka wo ewo ni bi kuma bi ana no se
wo nye ya wo
o ya wo bi ana
nya chuno konoko
ya wo chuno konoko
na ya shia
o fa no
ya shia so na kan
bi ana wo shia so na kan ko ko TV fi wo ta gari fi wo yi wo shia wo fe noko
ko join ni fi o ko ngbe fi o
join TV fi o ko ni bi ni ya no fi o ko wo shia na kan no wo fi o wo bi ana wo so wo shia
nya wo so ka kenya fo hu ke fatai
oh no na no kwale corona wo lockdown wo onu shi wo bi ana wo lock wo ngame ke ni mi fi wo shia ko bi won fo ke ko shue no bi ana po ni yo po le chen fo ye bi enyo chi mi bi wala ko ni mo ame wale ni ke fo BP
ta wenye
Okay, not to be to 6 alo 7 poor.
Without B6 alo 7. No benu chumoto wa to ko me.
Ima imoni ko. Obi e po mbia mango first born Jamie ko bia ne. Ngani ko le. Bia no go ya no nyama chi po kembe kele. Oh, bene balaji. O afọ ni ye akwa wo. Ke bi edra. Oh, I try to make
So he's telling me, interesting conversation there, Roland. He's telling me that now they are unemployed. The yield from the sea is not anything to write home about. And so for them, they are just at home, trying to multiply, give birth, and replenish some more. One of them has just, come back from the ocean. I want to speak to him quickly. Before we hand over to you, I'm worry. I'm going to show him. I'm show me. Tamone wo muji ke rubber ke ni bi no oyabote mi.
No mo di apa.
No mo di apa.
Ke gota ga ju etem no awu ne ke yani ketumo atu mo fon go kembo mo se gota ga ju e wo nyeni na.
Okay, atu mo fon go ba no ni oyagbe gota mi mo fon na
energy gota ni sika nungbo ne ba ona ga muji e ka ba wo mi she ne ka che ye muji esmo muji ka ga wo mi 10 times ba je like 10 times okay onu shi no ja ga gota energy gota ni shade papa ni no go apa ka chi no ene le mo pa na ko wu e fon ya bo na tuyale ka na tuyale e ke egbe wo bode mi eja. So
he's telling me that this is a real, therapy. So that if you get into the ocean, especially with how filthy it is, in its own words, that is how you get cleansed. And it's a whole cleansing regime for him. But I want to find out, I care where be an aya who no be. They were attaching our force on.
Mo fi amoko ejo mo ne ganye mo go efe wo 7 minutes gan ye ni aga for one she je for 19 time ke gbo no abo oko
e what 419 feel
419
you mean no feel
me ne ga ozula jimi
ozula mini no jumo je ozula
le bibi le mo ma shawaka shi abachi seconds na ko 4 million no abachi oko 4 million o yayin e ko le tabla che me ni tun ni e gon no mo soro na me na no na me smo gon no tun wo shi won no wa bi e wo smo bi no tun ni nutumo ga bia na gote mo ba na nutumo mi gote wo nutumo o ne ko ko le won sin do kwa no ga wo lole o ka ta o nutumo sheja ga o wo lo nyi da ke nutumo no ba wa bia
abia ke mi no be wo le che ma bia ba ya school mo ko ni anya na paper se ku
school if you are ga won ke taflo ache mi ne ke shini dumo school wo mi go wa shi e she ko na ga shi inu mo nutumo ya no do gba ale no mo san mi ma nyi ke ya wo nutumo mi kono mi ga chan school no shinge wo mi awon na ga school e ga mi shego nko mo go egbe university na ete school agbagba e won pure traffic mi sino mi ni gbego na ni mi go la mi na bia fio mi na bia fio nke shin e ka wa ga to office e go office no je no ji nu tumo
wo bono fio e bia ke nyon ko me ko enyon na
kole ke kula mi ke tinga nke ba fen kole ke na kula 4 million
na 4 million nyon ko me no o benu tumo ko crash onyo fi oni o na 4 million
no tumo ni tumo bi wonyeme amete wa mba
okay
no ka amete wa mba ona ke akewo kente jam kole mi teleko
okay oblanya bi mi bi ake boni insure na efe mi no wo denche wonye wo fe ni wo tumo ani wo je wo sabie ni wo je joe ani ke mbra ni yo say abami mbra ake oblanya bi me no wonye wo fe na kai
ona ke ni the thing is wo banye wo sa but without the help of the government we cannot do anything ona because any many onani eyo bi any fine ke wo ba loju e mo anu wo lo dey dey out e femba ni esana form no ko ye choko ni na kan ni na kan ni to help us because without that thing we cannot do anything because anything at all which you come out from seaside the government themselves they don't like it always say they depend upon the people of the forest before us because when they get good things or they take you to that place then they leave us in the poor so whatever we do even they would not reach their minds because I remember last 3 years the government came to meet us at the Kolegono beach Then we talk with him about our problems we are facing in this beach. For him to help us, because one, they have been giving the awards to the farmers. What about the fishermen? But what we bought it from the mokola or anything, that net and this thing, definitely they got some tax from it. But they were not thinking about us. Because you see a fisherman children, you use the fishing to take care of the children to the university level. But the moment they were not getting people there to support them, they won't collect you. Because I remember in the year 2000, I've been working at ACP, and we made some small demonstration. We said if they will not increase our payment, which we will not allow any car to come inside to buy any of the materials. They took us to court like 4 years, 5 times. They said, oh, all the what we are doing is a foolish. They will sack all of us, almost 4,000 plus workers. So what are they allowing us to do? They were killing us. Fine.
But they are doing a fish landing site for you. They are doing a fish landing site at Jamestown.
Jamestown. Oh, if you are telling that is not a fishing land, because if you are doing a fishing land for us, and the people of the fishing people, they were not the people working there, doing that kwankwa and all sort of things. What are you telling me? You are not helping us, because if you know we are the people doing the fishing land for that place, you have to invite both of us to come and work there. So at least if you are a laborer, at the end of the day, you are getting 40 Ghana, 70 Ghana, then that means the government is helping us. Yes. But the process why it was going to collect, and if you give the contract to the any people, they are the people who brought their children.
So what you are saying is that the fish landing site project is a problem because...
Well, Manuel Kranting having a great conversation with the residents of Choko, just along the beach there. And, it's where you can get the best shitolo, I tell you. It's about the story, their life, and their sentiments on politics and everything about livelihoods in the slums or in their community of Choko. It's where we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll do some conclusions on showbiz as Kadi comes in with the latest. Stay with us.